the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Is going to be Mookie Betts, Freddie, Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, that rule's extremely hard.
Not for me when I have to play the Dodgers. Maybe multiple times, multiple series. As a Atlanta Braves fan here, Jon Tayler. Historically, where does that rank? When you just hear prime Mookie, prime Freddie, prime Shohei, does that have a case and we'll see it play out like the greatest 1, 2, 3 we've ever seen? Because you think about it and you're like, that's 3 NL MVP favorites to start off every game, and we'll hit. It's just crazy to actually say that out loud, right?
It is kind of funny to think that those 3 probably are the immediate 3 Vegas favorites for winning NL MVP odds, and that you have the last year's AL MVP winner, last year's NL MVP runner-up, and I believe Freeman finished 4th or 5th in the voting
somewhere in there
last year, something like that. It might have been 3rd. I can't remember, but it's hard to say because baseball history being as long and varied as it is, I'm sure you and I could probably sit here for a good long while and come up with just terrifying trios. It's because I think the easiest way in my head to go about it is, okay, well, let's find how many times did they put future Hall of Famers together in a lineup. One that just jumps to mind to me is I think what complicates it a little bit is that by this point, these 2 guys were no longer necessarily at the peak of their powers, but the Biggio, Berkman, Bagwell days in Houston. Although that's the thing, by that point, Biggio wasn't really a force anymore. His last really good season was 1998. Berkman's first season in Houston was, and I'm just looking it up now, was 1999. So they overlapped for a little bit, but by the time Berkman turned into a middle of the lineup force, Biggio was already kind of shifting down into his more of a pesky slap hitter type position than what he was. Similarly with Bagwell, that was trending toward the end of his kind of more productive years. That one just jumped out at me. The 2009 Yankees, I think, looking back, just because I remember, anytime you have a lineup with A-Rod in it, that's kind of hard to beat. But having Jeter, Damon, Teixeira, A-Rod 1, 2, 3, 4 in that season is just frightening to think about. OPS plus figures for those guys: Teixeira 141, Jeter 125, Damon 118, A-Rod 138. That's impressive. Those guys were top 4 in that lineup pretty much every single day. So that I think is another really good option. I want to pull up StatHead to try to see what if you can find let's see, it'd be most players on a team in a season matching criteria. So let's do it from there. Any to any, regular season, non-pitcher. I'm sure for those folks who are listening, it must be very fun to listen to me narrate a StatHead search. But let's just do this. Let's start with OPS plus 120. Status filters. I don't know. We need to have a minimum playing time of some kind. Minimum 500 plate appearances, because that's the other thing that is really worth noting with the combo of Mookie, Freeman, and Shohei. Those 3 guys are pretty much guaranteed, given how steady they've been, how good they've been at avoiding injury, with the exception of Ohtani as a pitcher. Those 3 guys are going to be in the lineup for 145 games apiece. You can take that to the bank. That is a really dependable trio right there. So that's also important too, is finding the guys who are in the lineup day in, day out. Okay. I think in terms of this is the StatHead search, the team with the most players, regular players with an OPS plus over 120, the 1969 Cincinnati Reds: Johnny Bench, Alex Johnson, Lee May, Tony Perez, Pete Rose, and Bobby Tolan. There are 6 other teams that meet that criteria: the 1978 Brewers, the 1982 Angels, the 2003 Red Sox, led by Nomar, Bill Miller, Trot Nixon, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and Jason Varitek. I'm a little embarrassed that one didn't immediately come to mind, but whatever. The 2009 Yankees, the 2017 Astros, which we'll put a decent-sized little asterisk next to that one, but that obviously was a phenomenal lineup. That was peak Altuve, Alex Bregman, the one good year of Marwin Gonzalez's career, peak George Springer, peak Yuli Gurriel, the last good Josh Reddick season. And then I would not have guessed this. The last team in this group, the 2022 New York Mets, with Pete Alonso, Mark Canha, Francisco Lindor, Starling Marte, Jeff McNeil, and Brandon Nimmo. So it's actually pretty recent that we've had. I mean, the last 4 teams I mentioned are all within the last 20 years. The Mets obviously is only 2 years ago, and that team had at the top of its lineup, if you look at their most used batting orders, which I can't. While I'm doing this, I can't say enough good things about Baseball Reference. It is such a cool just tool to be able to do this kind of stuff. That top 3 was Nimmo, Marte, and Lindor, with Pete Alonso batting cleanup. That's a really good top 4 as well. So, it's going to be up there, though. I think that top 3 is probably going to be up there. I mean, if we want to restrict those even further, let's just have some more fun with this. Let's look up the 2023 Los Angeles Dodgers to see. Okay, so Freeman finished with a 161 OPS plus last season, which is ridiculous. Mookie Betts finished at 163, and Ohtani, as a hitter, finished at 184. Jesus Christ, this guy's a mutant. All right, let's do this then. Let's get really silly. Adjusted OPS plus over 150. We'll even put a decent sized floor there. How many times has a lineup had 3 or more guys with any number of guys with an adjusted OPS plus over 150? Let's wait for it. Okay. We have 10 teams in MLB history that have had 3 or more hitters in the same lineup with a 150 OPS plus or better. The most recent, the 2004 St. Louis Cardinals with Jim Edmonds, Albert Pujols, and Scott Rowland. So by that criteria, assuming that, and of course, we're not going to assume that they're going to put up exactly the same numbers last year, but just setting that as a floor, the last time we've seen 3 guys in a lineup this good was 20 years ago with a Cardinals team that made it all the way to the World Series, only to run into a mythical, wonderful Red Sox team that, by the way, I should mention, in case people have forgotten or didn't know this, a Red Sox team that was down 3-0 in the 2004 ALCS against the New York Yankees, only to come back and win the next 4 games, the first time that's ever been done in a best-of-7 series in MLB history. The Red Sox did it against the New York Yankees. Just want to remind people because, some people don't know. But it's a pretty narrow group. I mean, half of these teams played before 1900. 6 of these teams played before the Second World War. The only post-integration teams on this list, the 1963 Giants with Orlando Cepeda, Willie Mays, and Willie McCovey. The 1964 Twins with Bob Allison, Harmon Killebrew, and Tony Oliva. The 1996 Mariners with Ken Griffey Jr., Edgar Martinez, and A-Rod. And as I just mentioned, the 2004 Cardinals with Edmonds, Pujols, and Rowland. Keep in mind of the names I've just mentioned. Cepeda, Mays, McCovey, Killebrew, Oliva, Griffey, Martinez, A-Rod, Pujols, or Rowland. That's 9 Hall of Famers, plus Pujols, who will be 10 when his time on the ballot comes up. It's really, really rare to get that much just star power in a lineup at the same time. So yeah, to eventually get around to answering your question, we haven't seen something like this in quite a while. We don't normally get stuff like this. Again, it's only happened 4. Sorry, did I say 3 or 4? 4.
I think you said 3.
4 times.
Yeah.
Since integration, 4 teams in the last 80 seasons roughly of baseball have done this. And the Dodgers are almost certainly going to do it next year. Oh, and by the way, they also have the best Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who every projection says is going to be a top 15 pitcher. And even leaving aside Ohtani, Freeman, and Betts, they also still have Max Muncy and Will Smith and James Outman, who very quietly had a 2020 season last year, and Gavin Lux, who when he was healthy was one of the best prospects in baseball. This Dodgers team is going to be so good, man. They're going to be so good. It's going to be so much fun to watch. I want to just fast forward us to the Braves Dodgers NLCS, which almost guarantees that we're now going to get a Reds, Reds. I was going to say Diamondbacks, but they already did it. I want to get a little new Reds, Marlins NLCS. I think Rob Manfred would quite literally jump out of a building if it were Reds Marlins NLCS, but. Notwithstanding, yeah, what the Dodgers are doing, what they've already done in assembling this roster is special. I'm really excited to see how it all plays out in reality.
Yeah. Well, good news for every NL team, especially the great teams in the NL West. It's going to be fun. We're all going to have a great time.
That's the fun thing for the National League. It's hey, the Braves and the Dodgers are 2 of the best teams literally ever.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun, Good luck. Enjoy.
They'll be fine. Well, it doesn't matter because a third of the league's still not trying.
No.
Jon Tayler.
Yes.
Speaking of teams not trying, this team is trying. Corbin Burnes, after we recorded last week,
Like,
traded.
literally the day after.
Yes. And I feel like we're responsible based on our conversation about new ownership and this, that, and the other.
That's true. I forgot that that's what we've been talking about too, is that Orioles ownership fans should be excited. Turns
Yes.
out we were 100% correct, as usual,
Yes.
that they should be excited because new...
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.